Alright, welcome back to another video. So today I want to talk about sports photography, and personally this is a style of photography that I've been doing for the past couple of years, and after some experience with it, I've realized that there are some essential techniques and gear we can use to maximize the quality of images that we're capturing. So sports photography is such a big niche within this industry, and there are many money-making opportunities in this style of photography. But with that being said, it is a style that can be quite difficult to capture because, as we all know, sports can be so fast paced and you have to constantly be observing your surroundings and you have to be ready to capture these unique moments. So now let's jump straight into my top tips for capturing sports photography with tip number 1, which is knowing your sport. So this tip means you need to have at least a basic idea of the game you are shooting and its rules. By having a better understanding of the sport, you will know what to expect on the field, and this can help you predict different actions and moments on the court. So for example, with this photo I took here, this photo was taken during a timeout in a basketball game, and since I knew that all the players huddled around the bench during a timeout, I was able to predict this ahead of time and set up a good angle to capture this moment. And that brings me to preparation tip number 2, and that is knowing your shooting positions. So this one here is so crucial for capturing sports photography. So I highly recommend getting to your location at least 1 hour before the game starts to really plan out your shooting positions. Some things to consider when scouting locations is having your subjects facing you, and for outdoor games, really consider where the sun's position will be. Ideally, you want the sun to be behind you. Also, remember that sports photography isn't just about capturing action photos on the field, but it's also about capturing the moments in between and also the atmosphere of the game. So don't forget to capture photos of the crowds, the halftime breaks, the locker room shots, and etc. Okay, now let's move over to my lens recommendations. So depending on the sport you are shooting, this may vary slightly, but for most sports out there, a telephoto zoom lens is a must. So this means using lenses with a varying focal range between 70 and 300 millimeters. And the main reason why is because there'll be many times where we won't be able to get as close to the action as we would like. So by having a telephoto lens, we can confidently capture these moments even if they're happening across the other side of the field. So I personally use my Tamron 70 to 180 millimeter lens, and this range works great for the sports I shoot. Another lens I always bring with me is my ultra wide angle lens, and this allows me to capture the in-between moments during a game. So as you can see with these photos, I'm able to capture these more intimate moments because I have to physically get closer to my subjects. And personally, I think these wider angle shots can really help your photos stand out from the crowd. So I personally use the Sigma 14-24 f2.8 lens attached with my Sony a7 III camera. I've left links below to all the gear I use and recommend, so if you're interested, definitely check that out. Okay, so now let's cover the 3 most important settings to use when shooting sports photography. So number 1 is a high shutter speed. So as we all know, sports can be very fast paced. So that means we need to have a high shutter speed to make sure we are freezing the movements of the players. So this will take some trial and error while you're out shooting, but personally, I try to keep my shutter speed to an absolute minimum of 1/500th of a second, depending on the sport that I'm shooting. But with that being said, if the lighting allows, higher is always better. But using high shutter speeds may force you to bump up your ISO, but I believe it's better to have a sharp image than a little grain in your photos. But a quick and easy way to get some extra light is by using lenses with lower apertures. Okay, number 2 is shooting in burst mode. So this is super important because by shooting in burst mode, we are able to capture more frames, which will allow a higher chance of capturing tack sharp moments during the game. And lastly is using continuous autofocus. Again, this one is so crucial because the players on the field will be constantly moving, so we need the confidence that our cameras can keep up with the movement on the field. So be sure to set your autofocus mode to AFC servo or continuous. Personally, I shoot all my sports photography using manual mode on my camera, but a mode I see a lot of other professionals use is shutter priority. So if you're struggling to capture both the action and setting your exposure, I highly recommend trying out the shutter priority mode, and this will allow you to fully focus on just capturing the game. And for those who don't know what shutter priority is, it's basically a semi-auto shooting mode where you set a specific shutter speed, then your camera will automatically adjust your aperture and ISO. Okay, now let's quickly cover some compositions and camera angle tips. So each sport will provide different opportunities, but the main takeaway here is to ensure you are mixing your shots up. So that means avoiding the standing upright shots and experimenting with lower angles, Dutch angles, framing, leading lines, and etc. Also, be sure to capture a variety of wide and tight angle shots. And again, like we spoke about earlier, by understanding the sport we are shooting, we'll be able to anticipate different actions within the game. And this will allow us to set up our photos ahead of time to ensure we capture these moments correctly. And now moving on to my final tip for shooting sports photography, and that is to capture stories. So the easiest way to do this is to capture the emotions at the game. So these emotions could come from the players, the coaches, the crowd, the commentators, and etc. You need to be constantly observing your surroundings and looking for those moments where the players are high-fiving, the coaches are stressing, and where the crowds are cheering. Alright, so that wraps up my top tips for shooting sports photography. I hope you found some value from this video, and if you're interested in improving your photography skills further and learning how to actually make money with your photography, I'm currently running a free photography masterclass where I break down my top tips to capturing professional looking photos. Alongside that, I'll also be sharing my 5 key steps I took to making over 6 figures a year as a full-time photographer. This is 100% free training, so if you're interested, you can hit the link in the description below to register. Also, I'll be posting a lot of new videos to this channel, so if you want to stay up to date with all the new content coming, hit the like and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you in the next one.